Working according to standards is so important in manufacturing operations because it allows you to create consistent quality products, and also if you can fix deviations from your process standards, you may very well be able to prevent actual product defects. So today let's go into how to check and improve work standards. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we discuss continuous improvement in an industrial setting. And in this video, we will be talking about process confirmation. So that is checking how our processes or work standards are implemented in practice and if we can improve them. For instance, by removing obstacles or by making the standards more clear or training our operators. In industry, we usually try to make the same product in very high quantities. So it's important that each of those products are made the same way and are according to the same specifications. That means that we really want to work according to standards. And these are not just standards for material, but also standards for how to work and how to set up your machine. So which parameters are we putting into our machinery? One of the traditional ways to test the quality of our processes is to just take some finished goods, analyze them for deviations and defects, and then see if we have to adjust something in the process. But this is a costly way to analyze our processes because, first of all, we need to actually analyze the product, which is often relatively expensive. If we find a defect, you can be sure that there's already also defects somewhere in the market, and we are quite late because when you have the finished good and then you see a defect, there's also already a whole number of semi-finished goods and the party itself is already sitting in the warehouse. So we're late to adjust any parameters. Now, what's better to do is to check our process conditions. So these are the settings of the machine, the material we need, and what operations our people need to perform, and make sure that we know our processes so well that we can set these parameters and these standards, and then we ensure that we get a stable product in the end. Now, generally, there are three reasons why we do not have standard processes. The first being a lack of standards. So basically, we do not know exactly how we perform our work. We just know what to do. The second being that we have standards, but our operators are not following them. And the third being that we do have the standards and they are being followed, but they are not good enough to actually ensure repetitive quality work. Now, the second and third problem, so not following up the standards or the standards not being good enough, this we can really tackle through process confirmation. And that is what we will be looking into in this video. How to improve our processes, our work standards, and how to make sure that we can remove obstacles for our operators to enable them to actually do the work that they should be doing. And it is also important to look at it in this way. So process confirmation is not about policing your workforce and making them work to strict standards. It is about subservient leadership, where management supports the layers of team leaders that support the operators so that they can actually do the things that they need to do to make a quality product. And if you approach process confirmation in this way, you will also see that operators actually like it and like management to be doing these confirmations, because you are taking away the obstacles to their work. So basically, you are taking away their frustrations, all the things that hinder them in doing a good day's work and in getting a good product out of the door. And let's be honest, many of the obstacles preventing operators from really performing the standard work in a nice, comfortable way are put there by management. When we as managers or specialists design the work processes without really understanding the work and the shop floor, but more basing it on safety standards and quality books, you get a standard that's often not the most practical way to do things, and sometimes not even possible for an operator to fully follow it. So, of course, what you would like to do is make a standard together with operators and at the work floor, but I think we will never get it exactly right the first time. So I propose that we check how it is done in practice and what hinders the operator from performing the best work. And then we change the standard, we update it and improve the way he can work, provide with tools, and then we are in continuous improvement. So how to set this up in practice? Now, the basic thing you want to do is to check especially new standards, but also from time to time your other important work and material standards. You want to check them a couple of times, see if there are any deviations. Then when after a couple of process confirmations you do not see any major deviations, you assume that this process is well embedded within your industry. And when performing a process confirmation, you go to the shop floor, so always go to where the work is performed, and then first you observe. You check what is going on in the area. Is there a nice and relaxed work environment? Do you see strange things happening around the operator's workspace? This will give you a very good first clue if the process is under control or not, and how the operator is feeling, how he is performing today. Then you check the critical parts of the process. And this is why it's important that those critical tasks are known by the auditor in advance. So we'll get to that a bit later on designing your process confirmation. We need to put some questions on the card in advance. And of course you discuss all of these things with the operator so that they can explain their work. You can check if they understand the standards, and they can of course also raise problems or obstacles that they are facing that you did not readily see. This is an ideal coaching moment, and that is also where one of the key strengths of process confirmation is. So do take the time to coach the operator on their performance, and also to get the feedback for yourself, but then especially for the processes, how you can improve it from a management perspective. And in this way you open up a very nice dialogue between the person who is doing the actual work that your factory is built for, and you, who can remove obstacles for them to increase their efficiency. So when you do a confirmation like this, there's basically three types of outcome. Either you have a serious deviation from the standards, try to fix as much as you can right then and there, and also take this report and suggested actions to the manager responsible for this area and to your committee to discuss how to improve it and how to make sure that we get this process up to standards as soon as possible. And sometimes you even have to stop the work right then and there, especially when you uncover a safety hazard. Now, if there are minor deviations that probably will not really affect product quality, but you do see some room for improvement, don't take immediate action. Write them down for further evaluation after a couple of confirmations. And this is because you do not want each of your process confirmation rounds to come back with lots and lots of actions. You probably already have a very full action list with priorities for your organization, and you do not want these process confirmations to automatically add a lot of action to this. And basically the same goes for if you do not see any deviations. So maybe you do see some improvement opportunity, but the basic thing is that the standard is followed correctly. Write it down and it goes to evaluation, because after a number of times, and I would suggest 10 times to be a good starting point, you check the remarks that were made during all of these process confirmations on one and the same process, and you see if there is a red line in there, if you can draw out some conclusions to improve this process. And the main conclusion you have to draw is this process stable enough to ensure our product quality, or do we really need to improve it? And following from this, you have a choice. Do we again put a next round of process confirmations on this process, or do we consider it to be stable and open up our resources to confirm other processes? Confirming your process standards is part of your performance control cycle. So this committee that decides which processes to confirm and what to do with the results and findings is almost always the meeting of your daily control. So it's your performance control meetings, for instance, your production meeting or a shift meeting, where the relevant managers are gathered. What I would always advise is that when you have a new work standard or an updated work standard, you definitely want to check if this one is performing well, but also when you saw some performance problems and you see that there is a link with a certain work standard, check this work standard a number of times, and again I advise 10 times, through process confirmation. So in fact your performance control or daily control meetings are also the owner of process confirmation. They decide what to check and how to improve, and when. Maybe you should even put some root cause problem solving onto a process deviation. Now the materials that can help you to perform a good process confirmation are a schedule where you divide different process confirmations between management members, and you can also plan them at specific intervals. And the traditional way to do this is with a T-card system, where on one side of the card, the red side, you have which process you want to confirm, and then a couple of the critical tasks within this process. Remember, this is one of the main things you want to check during a process confirmation. Are these critical tasks performed well? So you put them on your card, and then when somebody performed this process confirmation, he takes the card, turns it around to the green side, where he also has some room to jot down his findings, so were there any deviations or not, and puts it back into the T-card board. So all the red cards on your board are confirmations that still have to be done, and when you see the green sides forward, you know that these confirmations have already been done. Now, on the card itself or on an explanation form next to it, you would like to state what is the standard, because of course the person doing the confirmation has to know what is standard work. So you need to know how to work, what material and machine standards and parameters there should be. But this is too much to check every time. So you take from those the key components, so the critical tasks and critical parameters within this process. And they can be critical because they have been proven that they are often wrong, or they can be critical because they simply have such a big impact on the process itself. And you put a number of those, and then the auditor has a much easier time to go and check exactly that. Because this is also one of the things with process confirmation. You do not have to be an expert on this process to be able to perform the audit. In fact, you let the operator tell you what they are doing and what are the important parts. And they can show you that the machine parameters are correct, or that they tested the material and found it to be compliant. And this is also why managers can check processes in all different departments. So you don't have to only check your own team and the area that you are responsible for. So in the beginning, your site management team will do all kinds of process confirmations, but then when the system's growing a bit and you've involved team leaders and other specialists, you will see that people start to more focus on their areas of expertise. For instance, a maintenance manager will not only confirm processes that have to do with the machinery and how to operate it and how to check if it is still in a good working condition, but also really focus, for instance, on your maintenance planning and if preventive maintenance or inspections are performed in a correct way, timely manner. And your controller, for instance, will be more focused on correct registrations, stock counting, and the more financial aspects of your factory. And when you have a good system up and running for confirming your shop floor processes, also don't forget our office processes. There are lots of business processes, think of financial management, purchasing, quality management, that are also critical to your business. So you really want those work processes to be performed in a good standard way. So when you get the hang of shop floor process confirmation, also expand your scope to include these business processes. So let's sum it up. We'll use process confirmation to make sure that we have good, stable work processes. This will ensure quality output. A process confirmation is not policing your workforce. It is the way to actually support them and to remove obstacles by checking what is hindering your people from performing the work standards. For this, you do need to have standards, and you need to know what are the critical tasks for performing a standard, and these are the things you mainly check, and then you discuss with the people who can actually improve the work conditions and make sure that we remove the obstacles, what your findings are. And don't keep expanding your list of processes to be confirmed, but do, for instance, 10 confirmations on one process. If you don't see a lot of deviations, move on to the next one. And always make sure that when you did some change effort and you have a new or a seriously changed work process, that you embed it in your organization through a number of process confirmations. So I hope this video and the topic were useful to you. If you liked it, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I wish you the best of luck in strengthening your organization's work processes, and as always, enjoy the journey.